Good evening, friends. At the outset, I welcome you all to this program, Ways to Approach Selling in the New Normal. With the warmest wishes for a very happy new year 2022. I'm indeed grateful to all of you for having spared your time on this happy occasion to join us in this conversation. I am Vinod. I am a pharma sales professional with over 3 decades of experience across various therapeutic areas.
Unmute yourself, Mr. Vinod.
I'm Vinod as a pharma sales professional with over 3 decades of experience across various therapeutic areas from startups to multinationals. And this program is brought to you under a platform called the Sales Selling in a 5 trillion economy. This platform was formed so that sales professionals can come together to explore the opportunities and challenges that an economy which is galloping to a 5 trillion mark provides us. So we thought a series of activities can help all the sales professionals to upgrade as well as be in touch with the developments that are happening across the country. And we are very fortunate to bring the first program on the first day of the new year 2022. I'm indeed grateful to our resource person, Mr. Arun Subrahmanyan, for accepting to be the inaugural speaker on this platform. And we wish to connect with thought leaders and opinion makers in various sectors to bring their knowledge and share it with us so that each one of us benefits. So I am introducing our speaker of the day, Mr. Arun Subrahmanyan. Mr. Arun Subrahmanyan is a chief mentor of VAC Solution, a business consulting and training company who guides in designing and executing solutions for the problems for the startups, corporates, and professionals. Mr. Arun specializes in pulling businesses and individuals out of the hole they find themselves in. A success coach, mentor, and motivational speaker, Mr. Arun has over 4 decades of corporate experience and over 30 years of experience as a business leader and an entrepreneur. As a senior management team member at several leading companies, he has built and managed organizations in the face of significant regulatory, technological, and industrial change. These experiences have given him a ringside view of the shifting paradigms of the business and the strategies that need to be employed to address them effectively. Having built multiple high performing teams from the ground up, he has an unmatched understanding of leadership and teamwork and the importance of these two attributes for success in the corporate world. Over the last 30 years, he has conducted over 100 management development workshops on design thinking, branding, team management, performance enhancement, change management, leadership, strategic decision making, value proposition and negotiations, and conflict resolutions. He has taken the startup industry by the storm with his latest program, Decoding the Investor Mindset, a program that is a must for all companies interested in raising capital. His program, Personal Branding from the Average to the Iconic, has won him accolades from the highest level in the industry because of its relevance to the times we find ourselves in. Without much ado, let me invite Mr. Arun to guide us and let each one of us enjoy this conversation, which brings out some great insights. Over to Mr. Arun.
Good evening, friends. My warm wishes to you for 2022. I'm very grateful to Mr. Vinod and his group selling at the rate of 5 trillion economy for calling me over to, discuss with Mr. Vinod and all of you about the future of sales in the new normal. I'm open to questions, Mr. Vinod. The ball is back in your court. Yeah, you're muted, Mr. Vinod.
Yeah. So you started your career as a salesperson and went up to the level of CEO. What are the evolution in your thought processes that made this possible?
It makes it all appear that there is some sort of a, evolution which takes place, but very frankly speaking, it is not so. People, pride in calling themselves self-made. Well, let me tell you one thing, I'm not a self-made man. And the result of the people I have worked with, and the situation and circumstances I found myself in. I've been very fortunate to have worked with some excellent people. And possibly you can give this much of credit to me that I was intelligent enough to absorb from them the relevant things which took me on my journey. You see, when I started my career, Mr. Vinod, selling profession was very different. I started my career as a medical representative more than four decades back. At that time, there was a lot of, demands on the medical representatives. We had to know our product well. We were made aware that we are going to be talking to the intelligentsia of the society. We were made aware that the people we were going to talk with were highly informed, and we were trained to discuss with them accordingly. The doctors also at that time, had very high moral and ethical values. Unfortunately, a lot of it has deteriorated today, but that is not the case at that time. And India was, between 1970 and 1995 was the period when the Indian pharmaceutical industry, had a boom. Before that, the industry was totally ruled by multinationals, but then the national companies came into the scene at that period and they grew phenomenally. And I was very fortunate to start my career with one of the leading companies called Cipla, where we had to undergo very strong training. But then, as time passed, some companies started offering inducements and mass corruption started taking place. And in the process, the whole industry deteriorated. The quality of salespeople deteriorated. But I was very fortunate in that, I got an opportunity to work with some very good people. The first person who influenced me was one Mr. G.S. Prasad. He was my immediate superior. He was from Hexamarion Russell. And Hexamarion Russell is known for its high ethical, behavior. He inculcated in me discipline. I was a youngster of around 20 years old, and he taught me the value of discipline. And then I came across people like one Mr. Radhesham Verma, who is today the general manager for Bennett. From him, I learned the importance of honesty, hard work, being truthful. These qualities I learned from him. He was a Surit Gaigi at that time. Surit Gaigi was taken over by Sarabhai. It was a division of Sarabhai, but then it was still Surit Gaigi. And the multinational culture which he had working with him, I could absorb that from him. From him, I learned, that it is necessary to be honest. It is necessary to be truthful. It is necessary to put in your best efforts. At the same time, around 1978, just before I started my career, I happened to come across the writings and the research papers of two young Israeli scientists, Amos Tversky and Daniel Kahneman, who are doing work on human psychology and the cognitive sciences. I was very impressed with them and I read them. And then, that helped me a lot in my career. It helped me understand how people think. And in that highly ethical environment, it gave me an opportunity to grow very fast. I got my first promotion within 1 year of my joining the industry. And then it was completely uphill. I kept on growing. And at each step, I found people like my then regional manager was one Mr. Ratikanta Mukherjee, who was a disciplinarian to the core. And then there was Mr. G.K. Ramurthy, who is supposed to be a doyen of pharma industry. In those days when people were depending a lot upon analysis and information, data, Mr. Ramurthy was a person who drove his leadership through storytelling. That was my first introduction to storytelling. I could see, I even now remember the story of his, he used to tell the story of a horse called Gold. He used to say, that horse ran a race. But halfway through, it broke its ankle. But it did not stop there. It continued. And much after all the horses had crossed the finishing line, it also crossed. While the other horses got, garlands, this horse got a bullet. But nevertheless, he did not stop. He had started a race. He decided he will end it. You see, they really impressed me. It made an impression on that young mind at that time. This 20-year-old was tremendously impressed by these stories. His stories. So you see, that was my first introduction to storytelling. And then, when I got elevated, one young boy, just out of college, I was a tremendous performer. I was a massive performer. I had really achieved the highest levels of performance in Cipla. A very young boy by the name Ujjal Nath, he joined. He is today, I think, the general manager with Bharat Serum. We are still in touch. He's been a very successful person, the general manager with Bharat Serums. He joined. People were telling, that Arun, how will this boy fill up your shoes? And I also had it in my mind, that will he be able to hold it? Will he be able to hold the sort of sales that I've created? Believe me, he not only held it, he scaled new heights from that. A total raw hand. He built the sales on what I had built. I thought I had built Taj Mahal. He built a universe over it. That was a huge lesson for me. That what stops us from growing and what stops us from performing is not the external environment, but what we believe in. This boy believed in himself. While the whole world thought no one can do better than me, even Cipla, Mr. Ratikanta Mukherjee and others were doubtful if anyone would be able to come and fill in my shoes, because a 2,000 rupees sales within a period of an year I had taken to 98,000 rupees. In the late 70s, 1979-80 period. The company itself was not believing. And I was also, walking on the seventh heaven that now the sales will collapse. I kept keeping a track. Many people after they leave their company, they keep a track of what is happening. But this boy proved us all wrong because he didn't know that he was not supposed to perform. We always hear about that small frog which are fallen, 3 frogs which are fallen into the well. They try to keep climbing while other frogs keep telling, you can't do it, you can't do it. One of them climbs out and then says, I'm so thankful to you guys for cheering me. They said, I didn't cheer you. And that frog was deaf. So similarly, Ujjal didn't know he was not supposed to perform. He outperformed everyone. He proved everyone wrong. It's only right that he should be the general manager of a company like Bharat Serum. He has seen only success after success after success after that. So you see, it's all in our mind. And did you ever think about it? At the lowest level of the ladder, it is the leg which is important. How hard you work, the leg work that you do decides how successful you are. But as you keep growing, the mind starts taking over. From leg work, you go to brain work. And I was very fortunate that I had tremendous subordinates who taught me a lot. And I always tell, it is your subordinates who teach you. As someone rightly said, if you select people who are lesser capable than you, you will be a company of pygmies. If you select people who are more capable than you, you will become a company of giants. I was very fortunate that I always worked with people who are more capable than me. And every time they challenged me, I had to go back to the drawing board, learn and come back to answer them. And that made me more and more capable. I kept on growing. And by the age of 40, I became a CEO. And then the challenges were very different because now, I had a whole gamut of departments to look after, not just sales and marketing. And the world of commerce opened up, a new world of challenge opened up. And this is where the teachings, the cognitive science of Amos Tversky and Daniel Kahneman came in. And ultimately, let me tell you one thing. My 44 years of corporate experience has told me only one thing, that we all are equal. No one is better or no one is worse than the other. The only difference between you and me is what your objectives are, where you are aiming and where I am aiming. As I always say, man is led astray from the highest thing that he can achieve because of a lesser goal, which is more clearer to him. If the path you are going to focus on is of a lesser quality, that is what you'll achieve. If the objective you aim for is much higher, that is what you'll achieve. I don't know whether I'm making sense or not, but very frankly speaking, I never had to make any special effort to, try to become a better human being, a better professional. The people around me and my innate desire to constantly learn from everyone and absorb the good from them has brought me where I am today.
So if I take the gist of what you were saying, it is the individual's internal ecosystem that determines whether he grows up or not. And when the internal ecosystem is aligned or perfect, like with your discipline, with your basics, with your outlook of life aligned perfectly, then you attract people who help you to grow. Am I reading it correctly when you said?
I don't know whether the internal ecosystem attracts the external ecosystem or the external ecosystem creates the internal ecosystem. All I know is that all around you are people. They have got their good, they have got their bad. There must be drawbacks in Ujjal, there must be drawbacks in Verma, there must be drawbacks in Prashad. But then that is not my lookout. It is their problem. My lookout is only what it is that I can learn from them. You see, what I learned from Ujjal was that don't go by what the world expects you to do. Just go and do what you have to do. Don't listen to others. Just step into the water. What I learned from Verma was that be honest, be sincere, be hardworking, be a master of your subject. There was a 21-year-old, Mr. Suresh, can you please mute? Mr. Suresh, please mute. There is a lot of noise coming from behind you. See, what I learned from Mr. Verma was that you have to do your job correctly. It doesn't matter. You see, even during those days, a medical representative was not a highly educated person. He was just a graduate, and a science graduate or a B.Pharm graduate, but that was a must at that time. But as time passed, all that broke down. But at that time, during our time, 4 decades back, it was a must. But then we were talking to MRCPs and FRCPs. I remember, during those days, there used to be a principal in Guwahati Medical College by the name Dr. B.M. Goswami. He was one of the most erudite people of Northeast at that time. I was a representative in Guwahati. The first time I met him with Mr. G.S. Prasad, who was my boss, he very smilingly told Prasad, he said, Prasad, you are from Hex Marion Russell. So I used to support your products, but now you're come with an Indian company. I don't know how far I'll be able to help you, indicating indirectly that he will not write my product. But then you won't believe it, Vinod, ultimately it turned out to be one of my most, prolific supporters and prescribers. And he used to espouse my cause with his other colleagues and his, team, unit members. All because of my professionalism, and I refuse to submit my dignity as a representative in front of a double MRC. He was a double MRC. The only thing which came in my mind, which was told to me by my boss, Mr. Prasad, was Arun, he is a doctor practicing for his livelihood. We are medical salespeople selling for our livelihood. If he is an expert in his profession, we can be an expert in ours. So don't allow all these things to come in your way. And that worked. You see, it is all these teachings which I got, it is all these positive inputs which I got from the people around me, or call it destiny, that I took all those positives from them that built me. I was, the youngest national sales manager in the pharma industry. I was 28 when I became a national sales manager, leading on over 600 people and handling over 21 depots. And when I retired, I was already 26 years of experience as CEO. And all this was possible only because of the people I worked with. They taught me. Every day was a learning. I never stopped learning, and I will never stop learning. There is something new to learn, and there are new opportunities to take, to leverage. Like, this COVID is a huge opportunity to all of us. You need to leverage it. Sales is at a crossroad. From that time, it kept on deteriorating. Before the pandemic, the sales profession was a mess. Every industry sales profession, salespeople were facing severe competition. Industry after industry, product after product was getting commoditized. And under those circumstances, the only thing which could help was inducements. And that was the route being taken by everybody. You see, every multinational, they are giving freebies. Freebies were being practiced from politics to FMCG. Freebies. Pharma was no different. Giving freebies to doctors, freebies to patients, freebies to distributors, stockists, supply chain, everywhere. The COVID came and smashed everything. Now we will have to reinvent ourselves.
As you rightly said, sir, the thinking that you are as good as any other profession, because many a time it's found that salespeople have this inhibition to say that they are salespeople. They slightly feel that they are doing something which is not comfortable for themselves internally somewhere, because many of them, they don't agree that when they introduce themselves, they never say we are salespeople. Like somebody says, I am an engineer or I am a doctor or something like that. Why do you think this is happening? Because even I read somewhere when they were saying that they were comparing that in US, some of our big businessmen were not treated as good as the salespeople of the US origin in airports. So that implies a thing that these people are not as good as any other kind of this thing. That is a perception, general perception is happening. So what do you have to say about this?
I'm surprised, that people should be criticizing salespeople. Now, I'll ask you a few questions. What is in the news nowadays?
Majorly about politics as well as some
In politics, what is in the news? Campaigning during COVID is in the news, isn't it?
Yeah.
Can you have an election without campaigning?
No.
What is campaigning if not selling?
Yeah, persuasion is.
Huh?
Yeah.
Joe Biden is the president of the United States only because his party could sell him better than the other parties.
True.
Everyone is selling. Who is not selling, you tell me? There is this great name, adage which says, give the dog a bad name and hang it. When do you give someone a bad name? When you can't stand up to him. Now let us see, what is the reason? When you talk that you say a salesperson, what is the image that springs to your mind? Of an assertive person? Of a very persuasive person? Of a very aggressive person? A person who is very persistent? You doubt his words, you feel he is very sly because he is very smooth talking. These are what the images which spring to your mind. But is that the reality, Vinod? Is that what a salesperson is? A normal person who is trying to sell himself might be all these. But a true sales professional is never this. A true sales professional who is successful will be never that. For a true sales professional, he has to have a complete understanding of the product and services that he is peddling, that he is giving, that he is offering. Second thing is he should have the ability to listen to the customer. Otherwise, he will never understand what the customer wants. He should be able to frame very intelligent questions and be able to solve problems real time. And there comes a time during the sales cycle when it is very, very right to go and optimize on the commitment of the customer. If you are going to be interacting with the customer for say 20 minutes or 30 minutes or 1 hour, that 1 hour is not the full period when you can get the commitment of a customer. There might be a fraction of a second, when you will get that opportunity. And this salesperson has to be very aware of that moment and be able to correctly utilize it. That means he has to be very alert to all the nuances of the customer. That means he has to use empathy correctly. He has to be appropriately positive in handling the objections of the customer. These are all qualities which are acquired. These are not qualities which a person is born with. As much as a cardiothoracic surgeon needs to know how to do an open heart surgery, in the same way, a salesperson also has to develop the expertise in all these things. And these are human skills. A finance professional might not succeed at the topmost level. A shop floor person or a works manager might not succeed. But a salesperson has a much higher possibility of succeeding at the topmost level only because he has acquired all these skills. These are human skills. Empathy is a human skill. Being able to solve problems is a human skill because it is through humans that you are solving problems. Humans create problems, humans solve problems. According to me, a salesperson is a jewel of a person. No one needs to feel ashamed to call himself a salesperson. It is like being ashamed to say, I'm a human being. The world is run by economics and politics, and both these are run by sales. You can't create money if you don't sell goods. And you can't project leaders if you can't project their qualities And that is what selling is all about. Bringing the right thing in front of the people is what selling is. So I'm not impressed with people telling, that sales profession is not good. It only means they are ashamed of themselves. A husband sells the idea that he can take care of his spouse. A wife sells the idea that she can support her husband emotionally. Every individual in this world, a doctor sells the idea that he can give you health. So you see, everyone is selling. Who is not selling? Tell me.
And as a CEO also, you would have found that many of the industrialists or whoever it is, when they cannot understand this nuance of that selling is also an important part of their journey also, they fail. And when they understand that selling is also a part, because many studies show that industrialists need not be very good at selling also. And don't you think that this would be a skill for each and every person as a professional in this economy?
See, I'll tell you one thing. If you don't know how to sell, you're doomed. You can't do anything. You can produce as much as you want. Then what do you do with it?
Yeah.
So you have been able to raise $1 billion from a venture capitalist. You got a fantastic product. Let us take the product simply as a product which will bring the dead to life. Excellent. Can there be a better product than that?
No.
So you manufacture tons and tons and tons of that product which can bring the dead to life. And now what do you do with it? Tell me.
You'll have to find customers to.
At least you can ensure that you will not die. That's all you can do. You require a salesperson if you have to reach it to the market. As simple as that. You can call him whatever you want. Call him whatever you want, doesn't matter. But at the end of the day, if you don't have an effective sales force, nothing is going to work. You might have the best revolver in the world. You might have the most capable, a bullet which will go and hit the target and kill the person. You might have fantastic eyesight. You might have superlative aim. But if you don't have that forefinger which is going to press the trigger, all this is a waste. Nothing is going to happen. The trigger is going to be in place and the bullet is not going to come out. You can aim and aim and aim and aim and continue aiming without doing any harm to anyone. That is the reality. And remember one thing, sun or rain, it is that fellow who you are deriding every day who is going and doing the job for you, which you cannot. Selling is an acquired, ability. It is not an inherent ability. Let us not make a mistake in that. And if you help a person acquire that ability, he can win the world for you. But many companies, unfortunately, in recent days have not focused on training, due to which, they have always sent out into the market substandard salespeople, thereby not just spoiling the name of the sales profession, they have played with the career and life of those youngsters and run their companies into the ground. This is the reason, nothing else.
Sure, sir. And just as you were saying before, after the pandemic, the whole scenario has changed from what it was before. It has brought challenges as well as opportunities. And as a person who has seen a wide spectrum of timeline from the early, nearly 4 decades. So what is pre-pandemic and post-pandemic, and what are the opportunities and what are the challenges, and what are the adaptations we would need to make to become a more successful salesperson?
You see, in the pre-pandemic period, relationship has always played a very important role in sales. In the psychology of selling, we always say that we prefer to do business with people we like, because an element of trust creeps into the people we like. If I like you, I tend to trust you more than a person whom I don't like. Even though I know that that person is trustworthy, I will try to find mistakes in him and try to avoid him. That is how the human mind works. So relationship has always played a very important role. In fact, recent survey, they showed that in the post-pandemic, when people are going to be working remotely and selling is not going to be face-to-face, trust is going to play even bigger role. It is going to be 89% important in any sales process. Because when you can't see someone, trust has to be established in an implicit manner, which is very difficult. There are ways and methods of doing it, but it is very difficult. And at a corporate level, driving trust, Mr. Satish, can you please, thank you. At a corporate level, trying to drive trust through a huge customer base can be a challenging task. This is going to be one major challenge. The second major challenge is, you see, man, because of his own doings, has started suffering. I always used to tell my people, what is the biggest punishment for a liar? Can you tell me, Vinod, what is the biggest punishment for a liar?
His lies catch up with him.
The biggest punishment for a liar is not that the world will not believe him. If you are a good enough liar, the world will believe you. But the biggest punishment is you will never be able to believe the world, because you will think, you will tend to judge people only by your yardsticks of behavior. Since you lie, you will think the whole world is lying. Now let us take the industry, the sales profession. What is the trend before the pandemic? Before the pandemic, all companies had given their people, because of technological advancement, GPS, so that they can track where they are, what they are doing. They brought in real-time reporting that from your, a salesperson in a FMCG company has to go to the counter, and then from there he has to report, so that, they will know that he has visited that counter. What exactly did it mean?
Lack of trust.
It meant that they did not believe their salespeople. They were more interested in output than outcome. What is relevant for a salesperson is not whether he goes to the counter or not. What is relevant is whether he is able to generate business from that touch point or not. That is more relevant. But companies' insistence on GPS and insistence on reporting from on the spot meant they did not believe their salespeople. There was a huge disconnect between them and their own people, the management and the field force. Today, they can't go. Now what do? Do you put a GPS on the telephone call and tell them to give a record of the telephone call? What is to stop them just from making a telephone call, chit-chatting inanities, and then disconnecting? Why is it that our management is unable to trust or believe that everyone wants to perform, everyone wants to achieve something in life? This is where is going to come the next challenge. How do you ensure that your field force are engaged with you? This is a three-step process. Based upon the requirements of a digital world, you will have to define correctly what sort of a candidate you want to be a salesperson for you. You have to have caste and recruitment policies and methodologies in place so that the right people are selected. And then you have to go the extra mile to onboard and, train them properly on the field training. These three things are very, 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 very important. in the post-pandemic people era, when artificial intelligence is going to play a very big role, slowly artificial intelligence is going to take over the whole industry. What do we mean when we say artificial intelligence is going to impact sales? Artificial intelligence is going to impact sales in three very significant ways. The first is it is going to significantly change the role of customer service, as many of the functions done today will be handled by AI. The sad commentary is that more than 90% of the interactions which will be done by the artificial intelligence will be at a much higher level of customer satisfaction than what the humans are currently doing. There's going to be a huge amount of change in customer service. Second thing is it is going to empower customers in a very big way. When artificial intelligence becomes integrated with websites, we will see customers being able to go much further through the sales process, the buying process, without any human touch. And then third, it will allow salespeople to be able to handle more complex sales and will be able to do it in a more expedient manner. Or in other words, now salespeople will have to become knowledge experts. Artificial intelligence is going to take all the labor away from you. And unless you are going to use your brains, you are not going to be able to survive. The coming days are going to be very challenging. It's not that, people will not be required. Just imagine. When telephone came, how life changed. But man adapted to it and moved on. Computer came, there was a huge hue and cry. In computer, what this will do, what that will do. It has only increased opportunities. It has made your life much more easier. And today you can't think of life without a computer. Similarly, artificial intelligence will also come and all these fears will be proved to be unsubstantial. But one thing is for sure, you will have to retrain yourself. You will have to upskill yourself. You will have to cross-skill yourself. There was never any place for lazy people in this world, the mentally lazy, and there never will be place for mentally lazy in the new normal also. But there's nothing to be worried about the new normal. Inside every crisis is a huge opportunity. Are you going to be looking at the crisis or are you going to look at the opportunity? The question is, are you a part of the problem or are you a part of the solution? If you want to be the part of the solution, pull yourself up by your shoelaces and get ready to change yourself, improve yourself, develop yourself, retrain yourself. Don't give excuses. Sales will always be there. As long as there is something called production, sales will be there. You will have to sell. The entire farm laws and the problems, everything was connected with selling, not with producing. Let us not forget that. So you see, sales will always be there. Sales people will always be there. But what avatar will they take? The beauty of it is, if you go through the whole thing, it was Thorstein Veblen in 1898, an American economist and a sociologist. He proposed the evolutionary economic theory. And he, drew a map of how man has evolved. We had the nomads first, they were just hunting and living off the land. Then they went and settled down by riversides because water is a very important source. And then, slowly when they settled down and struck roots, they realized that what is there with them is not sufficient. So the barter system came. I have something, you have something, let us exchange it. Then came the agricultural economy. We started farming and exchanging again through the agricultural economy, the barter system went on. Then came the industrial revolution, the goods-based economy. From the industrial revolution, goods-based economy, we came to service-based economy. When we started producing huge amount of goods, services had to be rendered to those people who purchase the goods. The focus came on customer satisfaction and customer retention. The more the population increased, the more number of people we had to give service to, we came to the information economy. We had to store information and be able to access that information so that we can give service to the people and retain our customers. That brought us immediately to the knowledge economy, where information became king. Now we had a lot of information. We could access the information and identify who our customer was and go after them. Then what? The experience economy. Now we had to give a better experience to the customer to handle them and retain them. From that experience economy, we started looking at new ways to differentiate ourselves. We had to create bigger budgets so that we can get a more time of our customer. And then we had to develop deeper trust in the customer for us so that they will have greater admiration to us. That means we have slowly now moved into the fascinate economy. How do we fascinate our customer so that they will stay with us? Slowly we are moving, everything is changing. Only thing is, it is never visible unless you sit down and look at it. Today is not what it was yesterday. Tomorrow is definitely not going to be what it is today. If a person still says, I the barter system, will he have a place in society? He has to today think of enhancing customer experience so that he will be relevant in the marketplace. In the same way, tomorrow you'll have to find out ways of fascinating your person, getting his admiration, getting his trust, getting a bigger piece of his budget, getting a larger slice of the cake of his time. Unless you are able to do that, you will lose the race. The skill sets required are different. From data analytics, you have to come to focused analytics. Now you know how to generate data. Now you know how to analyze that data. Now learn to focus with that and become telescopic in nature. It all started with the telescopic vision of man being able to focus on his hunt so that he can live as a nomad. We are coming back. The wheel is, the circle is getting complete. Now we are again coming back to focus. Only thing is now the focus is not on the animal, but on the information. Who is relevant to you? And then enhance his experience, fascinate him, hold him to you. You see, the time span concentration of an individual today has reduced to about 9 seconds. If within 9 seconds you can't get that man's attention, you will lose it. You cannot eternally keep talking to your customer. The customer is getting bored. He has got so many options in front of him. So the moment you say mobile, it should click in his mind, Apple. It is only then you are there. Otherwise, you are not there. Moving forward, artificial intelligence is going to play a huge role. So you will all have to upskill yourself in a big way. Anyone who says, I will continue doing business the way it was being done earlier, is buying himself a one-way ticket to the grave, no other place.
So if we go back to whatever you were saying from the beginning to now, 2 or 3 things come out very succinctly: the curiosity, the need for learning continuously, and the ability to relate with people. These are the factors that are going to make an individual successful in any type of economy, whether it was pre-pandemic or post-pandemic. And you have been emphasizing the post-pandemic, the challenges are becoming little more complex, and everybody has to retrain, upskill, and everything. So, and if I recall, in the earlier part of your talk, you had touched upon that your success was majorly because you were interested in cognitive sciences, and that played a vital role in you becoming very successful in a shorter period of time. So that seems very interesting. Can I ask you a little more? Can you throw some more light of how cognitive sciences could be useful in this scenario?
You see, what is cognitive science? Cognitive science is the science of understanding your surrounding. When life came from water to land, it was majorly concerned with only one thing: how to keep itself alive. Three things matter most to the mind. Only three things. Number one, the predominant thing is survival. How to survive. Number two, food. So that, it can keep itself alive and grow. And the three is procreation, so that it can take the species forward. Now, let us leave the other two aside and look at survival, which is the most important. When the mind is faced with the challenge called survival, the first question that comes to its mind is, what next? What's going to happen next? Because if it doesn't know what is going to happen next, if it doesn't know what's around the corner, it will never be able to save you. It has to know what's going to happen next. That is the reason, man is always forward thinking. He is always future pacing. He's always looking, as they say, the golden period was either always in the past or always in the future, never in the present. Because the present, unfortunately, does not exist for anybody. Even as you are sitting here, your question is not, am I happy now? Your question is, how can I be happy tomorrow? So, as the poet said, tomorrow and tomorrow and tomorrow creeps in its petty pace, and all the fools have lighted ways. Therefore, all the fools have lighted ways, the ways to dusty death. We don't seem to understand that, as the famous philosopher said, life at its best is a losing proposition. No one has come out of it alive. But still, we are only interested in tomorrow. Looking at it from this point of view, what does cognitive science tell us we should do if we have to succeed in life in this current situation? The future is uncertain. There is no way of going back to the past, because the current is very dynamic. Real time is very dynamic. Just see, today, the COVID count in India is 22,745 or 48, something like that. Yesterday, it was around 13 to 16,000. I don't remember exactly.
16,000 something it was. 16,000 something it was.
Yeah, see, that's a huge leap. Now, suddenly again, it has started growing. If it continues to grow, what will happen? Schools will shut down, colleges will shut down, offices will shut down, businesses will be crammed. Already, half of Europe is under lockdown. China is under lockdown. What will happen to goods movement? What will happen to the economy? Again, there will be a recession. There will be again a hit. Again, uncertainty will come. Now, tell me one thing. For a person in the prime of his life, either doing business or working, does this sort of an uncertainty do any good to him? Every time he looks, he sees his wife, he sees two young children studying who have to be brought up in life and given a future. He sees old parents who have to be taken care of, and he sees a diminishing bank balance, and he sees an uncertain paycheck. Do you mean to tell me, Mr. Vinod, all these things will help you in any way in developing peace of mind? It is under these circumstances, where cognitive science becomes very important. Your ability to be able to separate the grain from the chaff and to focus on what is relevant, ignore what is irrelevant, look at the opportunities which are there, make the necessary changes, and start working on them. That is what is called the Darwin's Theory. When he said, that only the most adaptable of the species will survive and grow. This is what he meant. Situations will keep changing. Today, if it is COVID, tomorrow it might be something else. Yesterday, it was something else. And that is how the species keeps becoming stronger. God has given us brains to use, not to use it to worry, to use it to better our lot and become something in life. So, use cognitive science. Understand how the mind works. Whatever input you give, please understand one thing, the output will be commensurate to that only. A positive input will only give you a positive output. Like that person said, think you can, think you can't, either way you will be right. If you are going to keep bemoaning the situation that is around you, situation will become worse. But if you look at advantages of the situation that is around you, it will look very, very advantageous. It will look very, very rosy. The choice is yours.
And particularly, sir, as you said, upskilling and training is required for people to upgrade themselves. In those context, how would cognitive science ease the, process of upskilling it? Because adult learning is always a great challenge, because they say most of the learning takes place in the early ages, and as experience goes, the adaptability to new ideas becomes very difficult. And when cross training or upskilling, or because many of them fail because this challenge of allowing new learning happening is a challenge for both the teacher as well as the student. So how do you think cognitive principles could help in doing that?
You need to understand how learning really takes place in the mind. Think of the mind like a big slab of butter. A flat, a 1 inch slab thickness, maybe 1 feet by 2 feet, rectangular butter slab. You keep it inclined at 45 degrees or 60 degrees. You pour some hot water on the top. What will happen, Mr. Vinod?
That will melt.
It will melt and a groove will be formed.
Yeah.
This is precisely what happens in the mind, in the brain. When a stimulus comes, the stimulus is like the hot water, and the brain is like a slab of butter. It falls on it, it forms a groove. So next time another drop of water comes and falls, what will it do? It will go through that groove only. As more and more water falls, the groove starts getting deeper and deeper and deeper. The example is the Grand Canyon in the US. Such a deep gorge created by the River Colorado. It's a small, piece of water flowing, but it has got such a deep groove. That's precisely what happens in the brain. Now, what we need to do is we need to create parallel grooves. That means we need to come out of this groove and start thinking. The biggest problem lies there only. When stimulus comes from outside, like, a good analogy would be an egg. When you break an egg from outside, a life is lost. When it breaks from inside, a life is created. So you see, you have to generate within yourself the questions for which you need the answers. The teacher, the trainer, or the external agency providing the training should only provide the questions which will stimulate your mind to seek an answer. Giving an answer is not an option for learning at a higher age. When the number of grooves are very less, even at that stage, you might have observed that children ask questions and they don't take an answer that easily. They ask a counter question to that. You see, they don't let you off with one simple question. They keep questioning you because That it is that inherent tendency, that curiosity which is driving them, and that is how they learn. We need to become children if we want to learn. And that external agency, the teacher or a trainer, can play a very important role in pointing us in the direction in which we should seek the answer. Normally, we are habituated to the teacher standing at the head of the class, imparting information. We receive that information, and then at some point of time, the teacher asks the question and we have to answer it, and based upon our ability to recollect and reproduce the information that the teacher has given, we are declared to be a good or a bad student. But as you age, that will not work, because there is so much of information already imparted and stored within you that you will feel bored. You will not find the interest. And what will happen? The information will keep going through the same groove. No change will occur. This is what is meant by the syphilitic brain. Syphilitic brain is a brain which is not flexible, which it cannot think in 360 degrees. It will think only in the way it is habituated to. The pattern is set. And such a brain does not support success. I know, this is something called an expertise rut. When you are a subject matter expert, you have already fallen into the groove. I always give the analogy of a saint and a sinner. Who do you think has a future, Mr. Vinod? A saint or a sinner?
A sinner.
Because there is only possibility for him to grow and grow and grow and grow better. A saint, he has already reached the pinnacle. He can now only come down. Similarly, it's always better to be ignorant and continue to absorb information rather than develop a mindset that I know everything and then, get blocked within that slab of butter. If you want to use cognitive science to grow, think of yourself as being ignorant. The more you think you are ignorant, and the more you question everything which is there in your mind, question everything, you will find you will get very relevant answers and you will continue to grow.
So, sir, as you were saying, the attention span has come down drastically in the current scenario. It poses a challenge both for ourselves as well as a person who needs to sell something, because our ability to focus on something is also reduced, and the attention that we can grab from others is also reduced. So how does one go about it too?
Richard Thaler has very beautifully addressed this question. Richard Thaler received a Nobel Prize, I think it was in 2011, for his nudge theory. He has very beautifully addressed this question. You see, let us say you are going to a shop to buy a laptop. The moment you enter, the salesperson comes and talks to you about the processor speed. He tells her this latest processor has got this speed, this later processor has got this speed, this model has got this much of RAM, and all these things he speaks. What will you do? It has been found from research by surveys that when they go and talk about this, the person who is buying more often than not goes and concentrates on laptops which have better processor speed. In another shop, let us say, similar person, the similar profile has entered, and there the service person has come and started speaking about storage space, hard disk space. There they find that the person is concentrating on a hard disk. In the third shop, when a person with a similar profile has gone in, the salesperson came and started asking him, sir, would you like to see a shiny, metal case, or you would like to see a non-metal case? Would you like to see a silver color case? Would you like to see a black case? Here they found that the person started asking for a laptop based on the specifications spoken earlier. What it means is the salesperson has come and anchored a thought in him. This is very important. For instance, you must have gone to restaurants.
Yeah.
So when you go to Claridge's Dhaba, you have old Indian songs playing. You have got, pictures of old trucks and creating an ambience of a dhaba. Why? Why don't they have Chinese ambience there?
The atmosphere
When
that
you
is
go
created.
to a Chinese restaurant, you have, those Chinese lamps hanging. You got some pictures of dragons and all these things. Then you go to a, a European shop, with bakery and other things. You have a European or British setup there. Then you go to a traditional South Indian restaurant, you have the plantain leaf. Why? What is this? What are they trying to do? They are anchoring that idea inside you. This is very important. This is what the nudge theory says. They did a survey in Italy. A shop, a liquor, a bar, he had a surplus of French wine in Italy. And they were unable to offload it. Thaler and his team suggested to them, you do one thing, you start playing French music in the background. You won't believe it, within days the wine sold off. So you see, there are various ways you can do it. They found, that furniture, they did a research, they did a survey that what they did was, they posted 2 advertisements with blue sky. And on that blue sky background, they put a posh sofa set. And in another one, they put a blue sky with coins. When people saw this set of advertisements, background, when they entered into the shop, when they saw the blue sky with the sofa set, they were willing to pay a much higher price for the furniture. And when they saw the blue sky with the coins, they started bargaining and people wanted to pay a much lesser price. The one with the sofa being superimposed on the sky gave a feeling of luxury, of vastness, and people were willing to pay and they were more generous. And when they saw the coin, they were reminded of thriftiness and they started bargaining. The mind responds beautifully. This is what is called priming the mind. There are various types of priming: direct priming, indirect priming. So you see, this is how they prime the mind. The mind responds beautifully, For a marketing person, for a salesperson, understanding the cognitive science is very important. How do you phrase your sentences? How do you tell your story? You see, the whole mind works on only 2 aspects, fear and desire. So everything you say, everything you talk should be directed towards either the fear or the desire in a human being. As a salesperson, you should know when to evoke the fear, when to evoke the desire, how to cancel out the loss aversion, which every person carries within him. One question will always come in their mind is, am I doing the right thing by paying this amount for this product? How do you cancel it out? And this is going to be even more important now because all this will have to be done from a remote location. You're not going to be present there to do it. So it is very, very essential for companies, for marketing and sales people to understand all these cognitive principles of influencing so that they can drive their selling process more effectively. Without that, it will not work.
So, as we said, as we were discussing various aspects of sales and the challenges and things, time has flown nearly 1.5 hours into the discussion. And I think people are, there are questions that they want to ask directly. So can we
most welcome.
Can we open the floor to any questions that the people want to ask? Whoever wants to ask can unmute and ask the questions.
Sir, this is M. Chidambaram. Can I ask, sir?
Yeah, Mr. Chidambaram, please.
Yeah, I think they say first you sell yourself, then you sell your ideas and sell your products. Of course, that is quite possible earlier. Now with this digital way, even as trainers, we find it difficult. So what would be your suggestion to sell himself before he sell the? That's why we have people like Amitabh Bachchan or somebody popular who are already been sold. So any tips on selling oneself as a salesperson online?
What exactly is the meaning of this sentence? Sell yourself before you sell your product. We have to understand what is meant by that. I can hear some noise in the background. All of you mute, excepting the person who is speaking. Mr. Naik, can you please mute? See, what exactly is the meaning of this sentence, sell yourself? Many a time, things are told as aphorisms without the meaning being explained. And that is taken wrongly. Sell yourself does not mean sell the salesperson. Let me give you an example. Let us say Eureka Forbes is that. Today there might be a salesperson in a particular territory. The salesperson might change after 2 months. So am I to assume that every time Eureka Forbes changes the person will have to go and sell himself before he sells the product? No. What it really means is establish trust between the corporate and the customer. That is what sell yourself before selling the product means. The yourself stands for the corporate, not the individual who is selling. Having said that, the corporate will have to ensure that the individual's behavior and approach are aligned with the corporate image. Tatas are known for that trust. So any person who represents Tata should uphold the same degree of trust which the company called Tata is known for. It is not very difficult to establish trust. When is trust established? Trust is established mainly by 2 things. When the customer is able to see clearly what the individual and the company stand for, that is transparency. If there is transparency in dealings, if there is transparency in communicating the specifications of the product, if there is transparency in the transactions between the customer and the company, trust will be established. This is number 1. The second trust is availability. When the person, the company, or the person is available to the customer. When he requests or even when he doesn't request, trust is generated. Many a time, these service centers don't respond in time. What is the reason today Amazon is so very popular, so much trusted? Because whatever may be the thing, you pick up the phone and tell them I'm not satisfied with the product. He will not ask you a single question. He'll say, madam, I will guide you. Please open our website, go and click, do all these things, and now put the time when the product has to be taken back. We will take it back, and within the next 3 days, The money will be in your wallet or in the bank account, whichever way you want it. So all these things makes you feel comfortable doing business with that person, because you know if you're not satisfied with the product, you can return it and get your money back. So you see, this is how trust is generated, and this is what is meant by sell yourself before you sell the product. Today, Amazon is the most popular platform. I don't think any of us has met any person from Amazon, but we still trust Amazon. Does it answer your question, Mr. Chidambaram?
Yes, sir. Beautifully explained. Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Sir, Rehan here. May I ask you something?
Yes, Rehan.
Yes. Can you suggest something to become a good salesperson? Few tips can you please give us?
I can tell you very clearly what I told earlier. Know your product and services very well. That is the first requisite to become a good salesperson. You should know your product and services inside out. Number two, develop the ability to listen, not just hear. There is a difference between hearing and listening. Most people, as they are hearing, they are framing questions in their mind or answers in their mind to whatever is being told. That is not listening. Listen, try to understand what is being told. What is being told between the lines? What is it that is not being told? Oftentimes, the real message lies in what is not being told. The third thing is learn to craft intelligent questions, not inane questions. Before you ask a question, ask yourself the question, do I want to know or am I trying to test the other person? If you want to know, ask the question, whatever the question may be. Don't think it is silly, intelligent. Questions are not silly or intelligent. Questions are like the water which you pick up in the glass when you are thirsty. They are essential. If you are not thirsty, for courtesy's sake, because someone is offering you a glass of water, you will take it and do what? You'll keep it on the table beside you. Don't do that. Learn to ask intelligent questions. Then comes the ability to solve problems in real time. Don't be scared. If a problem is there in front of you, put your feet forward. As someone rightly said, when you put the right feet forward, the left will automatically follow. That is how the journey of 1,000 miles begins, with the first step. Enter into the problem and try to solve it. Learn. You might not be able to do it once. You might not be able to do it the second time. You might not be able to do it 100 times. Doesn't matter. Edison didn't do it 9,999 times, only to do it on the 10,000th time. Are you understanding, Rehan?
Yes, sir. Thank you so
Develop
much.
empathy. Develop empathy. Understand what your customer wants. Really what he wants, and that can be done only by asking him questions. And remember one thing, whenever a problem comes in front of you, a problem is something which is a door. It is an opportunity. An objection is an opportunity. If the customer never objects, you will never get an opportunity to convince him. So don't worry. Every time your customer objects, pat yourself in the back, because you have been able to generate interest in him. People are scared of objections. That means they are scared of success. A person who is scared of success will never be successful. I wish you people had met this person called R.S. Verma, about whom I was telling today in the earlier part. Anything and everything under the sun, I have seen Verma only address with a smile. I used to wonder where the hell this man has stored all the smile that he can use up so much and still have surplus amount of it. Address everything with a smile. No one is going to crucify you. That stopped with Jesus Christ. So go ahead, smile, face the challenges, face the objections. You will succeed. If you want to be a good salesperson, learn your product well, learn to listen, empathize with your customer, learn to ask good questions, smile and face the problems and the objections boldly. You are a good salesperson automatically. Rehan, according to me, the salesperson sits at the top of the pyramid. Every other profession comes after that. I'm very